This summer was pretty important for quite a few NBA teams that had an opportunity in front of themselves to capitalize on getting themselves some big boosts if they executed correctly, and quite a few squads did just that. In my last video, I actually talked about the teams that were on the opposite end of this spectrum failing to do so, so if you missed that one, be sure to go watch it after you watch this video. But today, we'll be talking about 4 teams in particular that had sneakily great off seasons. These aren't necessarily the teams that dominated the headlines with their moves, but they're the ones that made rock solid acquisitions for their own sets of needs and should improve tenfold because of the way that they handled their business. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first team that had an underrated yet incredible offseason this summer is the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder were dealing with an unusual Josh Giddey situation last year because of reports of things that happened off the court, and then on the court his skill set became much more expendable due to how much of the offense was running through Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and other players like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, and how unreliable Giddey is as a perimeter shooter caused that. The Thunder started their summer off by unloading Giddey in a trade that landed them Alex Caruso, which was terrific business for a team coming off of a finish as the 1 seed in the West, looking for more two-way firepower that can fit more into what they need from their shooting guard. Caruso is one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire NBA, and a lineup featuring both him and Lou Dort gives the Thunder the ability to make life a living hell for opposing ball handlers. To bolster their already elite defense that was ranked in the top 5 last season, the Thunder also went out and signed Isaiah Hartenstein away from the New York Knicks in free agency after he broke out in a big way there as an outstanding interior defender that contests a lot of shots, crashes the glass hard, and will alleviate the pressure put on Chet Holmgren to protect the rim while he continues to add strength to his frame. The Thunder weren't a team that needed to go star hunting, they just needed to continue to trust the development of their young squad that has already proven they can contend, while bolstering a few areas of need, and that is exactly what they did. On top of that, they also re-signed sharpshooter Isaiah Joe and athletic swingman Aaron Wiggins to team-friendly contracts, locking in their rotation moving forward, and they even drafted Nikola Topic in the lottery, who won't necessarily be a factor this season because he is recovering from a torn ACL, but before that injury happened, he was projected to be a top 5 pick in the draft, so they have even more talent with upside to tap into long term. The next team that had a sneakily incredible offseason this summer is the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks are coming off of a run to the NBA Finals where they fell short at the hands of the Boston Celtics, but they made sure they did whatever they could to keep themselves in the hunt to hopefully get over the hump. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving handled a lot of the offensive workload during that run, and PJ Washington did explode in a few games along the way too to give them an interesting third option that also provides what they need on the defensive end. Everything else about their rotation was far from perfect though, and they definitely found some ways to upgrade key spots. Tim Hardaway Jr. was the team's 6th man for most of the season, but at the end of the year, his shooting touch was evading him way more often than the team would have liked, and his streakiness could not be relied upon at all, so the Mavericks traded him this summer for Quentin Grimes, who is at least an upgrade over him defensively. Where they managed to replace Hardaway's shooting, though, came when they acquired Klay Thompson in a sign-and-trade, and while Klay may not be as good as he once was either, he is still a 39% shooter from 3 in a down season, who could easily shoot back up to the 40+% range from deep, benefiting from the playmaking of Luka Doncic. On top of that, they made what I believe to be one of the most underrated yet amazing signings of the summer by adding Najee Marshall as a free agent, who had been in New Orleans previously and emerged as an outstandingly versatile defender who just made a career-best 39% of his threes as well, so for a Mavericks team that needs all the 3-and-D guys they can get, he is a terrific addition. They did part ways with Derrick Jones Jr. and Josh Green, but their minutes will be replaced by players they can still provide defensive upside that was left behind, while also being more reliable as floor spacing shooting options. The next team that had an underrated yet great offseason this summer is the Sacramento Kings. The Kings offseason really doesn't seem to be talked about all that much, but I'm really high on the moves that they made. 2 seasons ago, they broke the NBA record for best offensive rating in league history, then last year they took a bit of a dip, and without that historically great offense, they did end up missing the playoffs this past year. To get back in the mix in a stacked Western Conference, they have to double down on their ability to outscore their opposition, because at this point, it doesn't seem that realistic for them to really construct an elite defense. This is why them going out and acquiring DeMar DeRozan in a sign and trade from the Chicago Bulls is such a strong move for them, because unlike in Chicago, where DeRozan had to be the #1 option, he's now third fiddle in an already highly competent offensive system where he gets to defer to an all-star caliber guard in De'Aaron Fox and can get set up easily from the playmaking ability of Domantas Sabonis in the two-man game. DeRozan's another aging star who many have written off, but he is still coming off of a season where he put up 24 points per game and makes life a lot easier for those around him when he gets hot. The Kings also entered this summer expected to lose Malik Monk in free agency, but they successfully re-signed him, so one of the best sixth-man scoring options in the league stays in town to keep their core together. They also had the 13th pick in the draft, which they used to select Devin Carter, who projects to be the best perimeter defensive prospect in the class this year, and for a Kings team with now more than enough offensive firepower, Carter comes into the NBA ready with a skill set that they need more of and can contribute immediately because of it. And finally, the last team we'll be discussing that had an underrated yet pretty great offseason is the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs may not be gunning for championship contention yet, but with their priority fully being on the development of Victor Wembanyama so that they can one day do that with him at the helm, the moves they made this summer will benefit him and as a result everybody else tremendously. For starters, last season the Spurs didn't really have a single good answer at the point guard position, and it was glaringly obvious on a game-to-game basis when Wembanyama would be wide open under the basket countless times and his teammates failed to find him for easy baskets. The Spurs signed Chris Paul to a 1-year contract this summer for that exact purpose, because Paul may be on the verge of retirement, but if there's one thing he can still do at a very high level, it's see the floor and find his teammates for easy baskets, as he still managed to rank amongst the best in the league in assists per game coming off of the Warriors bench last season. His presence alone should help take Wembanyama's game to the next level, and while he's not a long-term solution there, it will give him a better feel for how to play alongside players with that skill set. The Spurs also brought in Harrison Barnes to be another veteran presence that can strengthen their lineup's front court and be a positive presence in the locker room for this young team. In addition to that, they drafted Stephon Castle 4th overall in the draft, who played a big role in Connecticut winning March Madness for a second consecutive year, and while he is still very young and raw on the offensive end, he's a big-bodied guard that competes so hard on defense, is very coachable, willing to do whatever is asked of him, and is the exact type of talent that coach Greg Popovich has historically been able to get the most out of. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these teams and their off seasons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.